let's take a look at logical levels. Now, logical levels have been proposed in different ways by many different researchers, but here is the list of logical levels that I like to work with. Now, the idea here is that you have sort of a hierarchy of needs, a hierarchy of ways that your mind is categorizing things, and that your life is being categorized as you go through your different experiences, as you experience what it's like to be a human. All of these different categories are constantly in play. However, there's an importance to the way they're listed here. There's a hierarchical importance to the fact that environment is on the bottom, for instance, and spirit is on the top. So we'll get into that in a moment, but first let me just explain all the items on the board. First, we start with spirit at the top, and then identity, and then beliefs, then capabilities, and then behavior, and then environment. So spirit, as you may have guessed, has to do with that spiritual part of you, that spiritual side of you, what you are as a higher being, if you will, what you are as a spiritual creature of the universe. That's what spirit has to do with. And so everything at every level can affect everything below it. Some propose that everything at every level can affect the one item above it and everything else below it. But, for example, if we look at capabilities, we understand that our capabilities, if we change them, will affect our behavior and our environment. Now, as I've said, some believe that the capabilities will affect beliefs also, that they'll affect the one above it and everything below it. But to keep it simple and straightforward, and to go more along the lines of what I feel, what I believe is true, I like to look at it as simply that everything on the list, on the pyramid, if you will, every item will affect itself and everything below it. So if you change behavior, your environment is going to be affected. If you change your capabilities will of course be affected, and your behavior and your environment. If you change your beliefs, your capabilities, your behavior, and your environment will change. In addition to, of course, the beliefs, in addition to whatever it is you're changing. If you change your identity, now we're talking about something much bigger than just your capabilities, what you can do, and your beliefs, how you think about things. If you change your identity, then all of these things below it will change. If you change who you are spiritually, then you've affected everything in the pyramid. So, wouldn't it be nice if we could change everything about us? And of course we can. But you see now that if you want to change something, what actually has to change. So as you go through working with people, working with patients, working with clients, working with people to help them have a positive change, what you're going to realize is the necessity of working with what's really going on with them. And what's really going on with them is far more complex than what meets the eye, because what's really going on is that they have different levels, logical levels, that affect different parts of them. Now, you may be wondering at this point, okay, that's great that there are logical levels, and I can relate to that. That's wonderful, but what can I do to cause these changes? Well, there are different techniques that you can use in NLP that we've already covered that you can use. For example, if you want to change something as straightforward as behavior, something near the bottom, you'll see on the right I wrote Swish, anchoring, Godiva, and NBG, which means new behavior generator. So you already know these techniques. You know how to do the Swish pattern, remember? You're taking a picture, and we're reviewing basics now, taking a picture of someone and you are having them see themselves as they are right now in a disempowered state, smoking, overweight, what have you. Behind that picture is the powerful them, 10 feet tall perhaps. And you're having them imagine that something opens up in the middle of the picture they're looking at and shows them that 10 feet tall picture, and it closes, and all they see is the current them, disempowered, smoking, what have you. Then it opens up again, they see the 10 feet tall picture of them in the future having stopped smoking, and they keep on repeating that, opening the shutter. Okay, so this should be coming back to you now, the swish pattern. There are a number of ways to do the swish pattern. One, as I mentioned, is to have two picture frames, one of the current negative behavior. We're always dealing with negative and positive. Negative is now, positive is later. We want positive to be now, so we're moving it into the future, into the present rather. So one of the ways is to have the negative behavior, them imagining that, and the positive behavior behind that in a picture frame. So if you are looking at it, you're going to see the negative behavior. Behind that's going to be the positive behavior, and they're going to switch. One's going to move forward and take the place of the positive, fill your visual field for a split second, then move back to where it was. And it's going to keep on doing that rapidly, just like with the shutter opening and closing, so that you are going to be able to get the change that you want. That's a behavioral change, and it can also, of course, affect your environment. When we change our behavior, we oftentimes want to change our environment. Anchoring can help with this as well. That's why I wrote anchoring off to the side of behavior. Anchoring can cause a change of behavior, and you remember how to do anchoring, how to set up an anchor. There are all sorts of anchors. We can set up a resource anchor for changing how motivated we are. We can think of the concept of motivation and get into state using VAKOG, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory, involving all the senses. Think about motivating times in our lives, times when we were motivated, when we were really pumped up. And we can anchor that. We can do a simple anchor by touching our shoulder and saying yes. We can think of another time, we can anchor that by touching our shoulder and saying yes. When we want to fire off that anchor, when we need it, all we have to do is touch our shoulder and say yes, and we're instantly put in touch with that power of motivation. So this is how we work with anchoring to change behaviors.